it was the least important of the trophies to Liverpool this season. All of a sudden now it's taken on massive, massive importance again. So I'd love to tell you that I'm totally over Liverpool going out to the Champions League against PSG in midweek, but I'm not. I'm really not. I'm absolutely gutted. I still think Liverpool played really well though, and on the balance of play over the two legs, the best team probably went through. But I think that defeat against PSG in midweek will have left some scars, not just on the Liverpool fan base like myself, but the Liverpool players, the Liverpool squad. You know, we've been talking for weeks about how Newcastle are going to have, you know, no Sven Botman, no Lewis Hall, no Anthony Gordon. You know, Isak's been questionable in terms of fitness. And now Liverpool all of a sudden have lost Trent Alexander-Arnold. Maybe Ibrahima Konate might not be fit for the final. It's going to be a really tough one for Liverpool. And they looked gassed against PSG, didn't they? They looked absolutely dead on the feet. You know, Alexis McAllister gets hauled off. He looked absolutely shattered. Szoboszlai the same. And I think this Liverpool team have just gone so well in so many competitions for so long. It's starting to take its toll. And look, maybe the final. I came into this one thinking, honestly, I was really confident. Before the PSG game, I thought, we'll breeze past Newcastle. You know, I think Liverpool against a full-strength Newcastle, I think we'd beat them. You know, it'd be a tough game and a one-off game in a final, but I think we'd beat them. I'm confident. I'm feeling we'd beat them. But when the likes of Trent, Konate, maybe McAllister, maybe Szoboszlai start dropping out of the squad, and the rest of the team also look pretty jaded, pretty knackered. You know, I mean, what effect will it have had mentally on the likes of Darwin Núñez, Curtis Jones, missing the penalties as well? So even to a Liverpool fan like me, it feels like the team is coming into this one not on a high, not even with, you know, a massive point to prove or anything like that, just like running on empty. And I feel like actually it might be Newcastle who have the point to prove. Maybe it's Newcastle with the way their season's gone, you know. Liverpool have lost 5 games all season. Newcastle have lost 5 in their last 10. They've been very, very up and down. Even the wins that they have picked up, I don't think they've been particularly impressive in, you know. I mean, the Nottingham Forest game a couple of weeks ago was a really, really poor one. I mean, even the West Ham game on Monday Night Football, they sort of labour through, don't they, and they get the narrow victory in the end. So I don't know what to make of this one. I really don't know what to make of it. I think if I'd have been doing this preview before the PSG game, then it would have been a completely different one. I'd have been absolutely full of praise and enthusiasm that Liverpool will win this game, and actually the quality will tell. But now I'm filming it after PSG, and I'm sat here thinking, no, I think this is going to be a really, really tough game, almost a flip of a coin. I think Newcastle in a cup final, look, they're going to be up for it. They're going to be so up for it. Any trophy is such a massive thing to Newcastle because they've not won one in such a long time, and that's not me knocking Newcastle. It's just a fact. They really need to win this one to get that monkey off their back. You know, they're absolutely right to have the ambitions of being a top 4 Champions League club with the ownership and the players they've brought in. You know, they've got top players in the squad, and they come into this one, I think, with a point to prove, and it might actually be that Newcastle. I am really concerned. I'm really concerned as a Liverpool fan. Look, we was thinking not that long ago maybe a treble was on the cards, and now it might. I'm not going to say just the league title, because I'm sure that's what rival fans want me to say. It's not just the league title. The league title is obviously the pinnacle. It's the one thing that determines whether or not you're the best team in the country, and I think the Premier League's the best league in the world. So I still firmly believe this Liverpool squad are the best around. But again, I'm gonna say I think this is a really tight game to call, and especially with the players that are missing via suspension, via injuries, tiredness, cramp, whatever, you know, and who does Slot pick? I mean, that's going to be something else we come on into this video as well. What are the lineups going to be? Because again, you know, it feels like after this final, again, if you're a Liverpool fan, maybe you can put this in the comments, let me know what you think. If you're a Liverpool fan, after this game, we don't have anything really left to play for. The league is wrapped up, you know, the title, they're pretty much just putting the red ribbons on the Premier League trophy and sending it on its way up to Anfield. It's, you know, it's halfway here now. And it's just a case of how many points we win the league by now, I would guess. Arsenal will switch their attentions, quite rightly, back to the Champions League, back to that quarter-final against Real Madrid. So maybe their eyes will be off the ball a little bit this weekend when they play Chelsea. And if you're Arne Slot, do you look and go, well, we've got 9 games left in the league after this. We could afford to maybe risk Ibrahima Konate. We could maybe afford to risk McAllister, Szoboszlai. Even though we know those players have got to go off on international duty after this game, and we risk aggravating injuries. Some of those players have just, especially Konate, have had muscle problems in the past, and maybe we don't want to risk that. So, I don't know, it's going to be really tough to call the lineup, and therefore, if those players do play, are they at their best? Are they at their peak? Is it going to be a case of Liverpool putting players in with injections and painkillers to try and get them through the game? Or do we heavily rotate? Do we put players in who maybe aren't anywhere near as good, but are fresh, are ready, are eager? We've got some players in the squad like that, haven't we? We've got the likes of Elliott, we've got Endo, I think, who could come in and Curtis Jones. I think Curtis Jones is robust enough to really want to make a difference and lay, a marker down in a game like this, especially with the England squad coming up, the announcement. I'm sure Thomas Tuchel will be interested in Curtis Jones. I think there's an awful lot here to unpack. So let's start with the lineups, right? And we'll go with Newcastle first, because I think that's probably the easier of the two to pick. Newcastle fans, would you agree with that? I think the likelihood is that Newcastle will start with the same team that faced West Ham on Monday Night Football, because look, there's no Lewis Hall, as we said, there's no Sven Botman, there's no Anthony Gordon, there's no Lascelles, so really I think that team pretty much picks itself, doesn't it? So I'll put that team up on the video now. You can see it. I think that's probably what we'll see. We'll certainly see Harvey Barnes, Murphy and Isak in attack. That midfield three is obviously the one that I think is arguably one of the best midfields in the country, and on its day, especially on a cup final day, I think they could cause Liverpool's midfield real problems, especially if we're as knackered as we looked in that second half against PSG. Joe Linton, Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes are all top quality midfielders, and they could run rings around us at this moment in time. I think if you've got a Ryan Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai fully fit, fully at it, well rested, I think we've got the better midfield. But as it stands, I think if you put those three up against the three that we saw against PSG, I don't know, I'd fancy Newcastle's midfield. I really would. I'd fancy Newcastle's midfield. And I think that's going to be an area of the pitch we're going to have to focus on. The area that Liverpool will, I think, get some joy is Newcastle's defence, which, Livramento and Trippier, I think in the full-back positions, I'm not certain. I think Livramento's probably better on the other side, but they have to play him there because of Lewis Hall's absence. And the two centre-backs probably going to be Dan Burn and Fabian Schär. So, and obviously Nick Pope in net. And, I think there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity there for Salah, for Gakpo, for Diaz, maybe Jota, maybe Nunez. We'll come on to that in a moment. But I think Liverpool's attack will get some joy if we can beat that Newcastle press. If we can break through the lines and beat Guimaraes, Tonali and Joe Linton, in particular, very physical players as well. That's going to be the challenge for Liverpool here. And it might be that Arne Slot says, you know what, we probably can't beat that midfield press. Let's be honest, we've not got the legs at the minute. We're going to struggle. He might be looking at the squad and saying, no, actually, we need to be a little bit more direct in this one. But Newcastle, again, probably win that. I mean, look at Dan Burn and Fabian Schär. They win most aerial battles. So, and with no Trent Alexander-Arnold either, who do we play at right-back? What happens there, Does that mean Kwanzaa's going to be playing out of position at right-back? Does that give maybe Harvey Barnes a chance? I thought Harvey Barnes did really well against West Ham, actually. I thought he was okay, and he created the goal really, really well. And he's got a point to prove, hasn't he? No Anthony Gordon. His career's maybe not gone as well as it hoped at Newcastle. It was a big move from Leicester, wasn't it? And the form that he had at Leicester City, I think there was, quite rightly, he was a talent, wasn't he? There was a lot expected of him. And he's gone to Newcastle. It hasn't quite panned out. He hasn't really nailed down a starting position. And this is a big opportunity for him. In a cup final, he'll definitely be starting. This is a really, really big opportunity for him to maybe even catch the eye of Thomas Tuchel himself, Certainly to nail down a starting position at Newcastle, and especially with Anthony Gordon being out, who knows, we'll see. I think he'll be looking at this as a really big opportunity. And then they've got Isak in the middle. Look, we all know how good Alexander Isak is. We don't really need to spend too long on that. Liverpool will have to be very, very wary of him. And I'm sure he'll be looking at that left-sided channel, Liverpool's right side, as an area where he can get between full-back and centre-back, especially with Liverpool's main pairing not being there. And I'm going to come on to that now, because Konate comes off and Trent Alexander-Arnold comes off against PSG. Liverpool then have to put, because we've got no Conor Bradley, our first choice backup right back. We've got no Joe Gomez, who's our first choice backup centre back and our third choice right back. So no Conor Bradley, no Joe Gomez. That means that we're going to have to put Jarrell Kwanzaa, who's predominantly, traditionally a centre back. He's going to have to play at right back up against Harvey Barnes. It's also going to mean that at centre back, if Kwanzaa's there, then do we put, does Konate make it with a painkiller, with you know, an injection? Does it mean that we're going to have to put Wataru Endo there? Again, I really like Wataru Endo. He's an incredibly popular player amongst Liverpool supporters. Really hard worker, tireless. But I don't want him up against the Isak. He's a defensive midfielder predominantly. That's what his job is, and he's great at it. He breaks play up really, really well. But he's quite diminutive, isn't he? He's quite small. I think Isak would probably bully him, and he'd peel off onto that side, wouldn't he? He'd leave Van Dijk. Van Dijk can stay over that side on the right-hand side, or Liverpool's left as it is. He'll drift over to the left and absolutely stay in that pocket between Kwanzaa and Endo, and he'll get plenty of joy there, especially if Joe Linton's on that side as well, supporting him, and maybe Livramento flying up the left-hand side as well. Newcastle can cause us so many problems in this final, and I am a little bit concerned about the Liverpool lineup. I really am. I think that's probably what we'll see, though. I think Konate will just make it. There was, a comment made by Slot in the interview after the PSG game that Konate went off, hobbled off, but it wasn't an injury. It was more tiredness. It was cramp. It wasn't an injury per se, but he did look stiff and he hobbled off in not the most movable, flexible way, whatever you want to say. So I think Konate probably just about makes it because he has to. But I really worry if he does go down. If he goes down in the game, which is a possibility, given he's going to have to maybe have an injection, maybe take ice baths for the next few days till the cup final, he's going to have to really, really rest up and get his body right so that he's in a good place in time for the final and he can make the full 90 minutes. Maybe extra time, which is always a possibility in these games. And I don't think Liverpool have the energy in reserve for that right now. And that's the difficulty here. So I think we're going to have to start Kwanzaa at right back. Konate will start at centre-back, but he might have to come off at some point. And maybe, just maybe, we move someone else to right-back mid-game and Kwanzaa goes into centre-back with Konate coming off. That would be my guess anyway. The rest of the team, I think, is probably it picks itself, doesn't it? I think Van Dijk at centre-back, Robertson on the left-hand side. Robertson had a terrific game against PSG. Obviously, Alisson in net. Midfield three, I think Gravenberch has to go in there. Again, I think he looks leggy, and I think he needs taken out of the firing line. I've said that for a while now. I think the last few games, he's just not looked quite at it. So I'm a little bit unsure on Ryan Gravenberch, but I think he probably starts. I think Szoboszlai probably starts. And I think alongside him, it's going to be Szoboszlai and McAllister. I think we stick with those two. And, I think they're going to have to just try and get through the game as best they can. But tiredness will be a factor, especially if it goes to extra time. I am really concerned that what we're going to see is maybe that midfield start. And then as we saw against PSG, they have to come off at some point in the game because we're losing the 1v1s. We're losing the second balls. And Newcastle just have far more energy. They've played a lot less games than Liverpool this season. And, maybe Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones come in. Maybe Endo comes into that midfield three at some point. It's going to be really interesting to see what Arne Slot does. Let me know what you think in the comments. What does he do? The midfield three, do we stick with those three even though we know that they're really tired, they're really knackered and they're struggling through games at the minute? Or do we rotate fully, partially? What do you think? Let me know. The front three, again, there's a question mark there, isn't there? I mean, Salah has to play. I don't think he looked at all leggy. I mean, that guy's just a machine. He's a robot. He'll just keep going. I think on the left side, I'd like to see Cody Gakpo because he's just come back in. But when he came on against PSG, he didn't look himself either, did he? And I thought Diaz did all right. So I'd probably stick with Diaz, actually. I think I'd stick with Diaz. And then up front, I think that we have to go with the player that looks freshest, and I think that has to be Darwin Núñez. I know Núñez gets a lot of abuse in midweek for missing that penalty, and it's frustrating actually, because I don't think he deserves it. He's not the reason that Liverpool have gone out in the Champions League. It's not his fault. He comes on and he takes a penalty. He's got the guts to take a penalty. He misses. That happens. Better players than Darwin Núñez have missed penalties before. Mo Salah's missed big penalties for Liverpool. It happens, right? Darwin Núñez has contributed to Liverpool being 15 points clear at the top of the Premier League. Big wins. Don't forget the Brentford game, the Southampton game at the weekend. Darwin Núñez has played his part in the success of Liverpool's season already, and I've no problem at all putting him in a cup final. That would be my lineup. Have a little look. Let me know what you think. In terms of a prediction, I think this goes the distance. That's what I'll say. I think this goes the distance. I don't think either side are going to run away with it. I think Newcastle will surprise Liverpool, though. It's going to be a lot closer than I anticipated maybe a week ago. I think Newcastle probably take the lead because, again, it's about freshness. Liverpool generally play better in the second half of games. We usually get a second wind. Whether that's still the case with such a tired squad, maybe we go hard straight from the off and we manage to surprise Newcastle, but something tells me Newcastle will really be up for this. The atmosphere will be bouncing, and Liverpool fans are still hurting. We are. I mean, it's a cup final. Look, we'll get up for it, absolutely. The atmosphere's always, Liverpool fans always produce in that sense, but I think that Newcastle fans might just have the edge in that it's such a big game for them. This is season defining for them, whereas for Liverpool, look, if Liverpool lose the Carabao Cup Final and we win the Premier League, it's still far better. It's still a fantastic season. Far, far better than any of us or any pundits or anyone predicted Liverpool would do. So in Slot's first season, I have no problem at all. I am delighted with just a Premier League title. I don't want to use that phrase, but just a Premier League title. It's better than Arteta's managed in 6 years. It's better than... It's equalled Klopp's record within 12 months. So the guy deserves enormous praise and respect for that. Again, I think the players have given so much. And I'm just getting this in before the cup final because I am a little bit concerned. I've got to say. I think Newcastle they could put... And I'm not going to say it's a shock. I don't think it'd be that much of a shock if Newcastle won. I don't think it would. They're a very good side, It's not like Liverpool are against Everton, a team that's right down the bottom of the league. I mean, it's not like it's a cup final. Anyone can beat anyone in a cup final, but Newcastle are a team they're currently sat in sixth place. They're in and around those Champions League spots. They'd have every reason to expect to be in the Champions League themselves next year. They've got arguably the best centre-forward in the Premier League. I don't think he is, but, up there, certainly one of the top 3-4 centre-forwards in the Premier League, maybe the top 3-4 centre-forwards in Europe this season. And he'll cause us problems, and he might well score. I'm going to stick with my team. I think it's going to be very, very close, and it might well go to penalties. And I think energy and legs will tell, especially on such a big pitch. Even the weather might make a difference. I'm not getting my excuses in early, but, it might be a hot, humid spring day down at Wembley. It's a big pitch. Athleticism and physicality plays a big part in these games often, and you have to be fresh, you have to be right, you have to be really at it, and that's going to be I mean, look, that's one of the things that Van Dijk said in his interview immediately after the PSG game, isn't it? We have to get our bodies right over the next few days. We've got to focus on, relaxation, recuperation, getting ourselves right, both physically and mentally for that Newcastle game, because this is going to hurt Liverpool going out. And that's going to be painful to get over. But also, you've got to then get yourself right, get yourself ready to go. And, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough as a Liverpool fan. I think it's going to be a tough watch. And I'm really not sure how to call this other than saying that I'm almost certain that it goes the distance and goes to extra time and maybe penalties, which absolutely wouldn't suit Liverpool. It's going to be really difficult. I can't say with any degree of certainty that Liverpool are going to win it. And maybe a week ago I would have been prepared to. I think we'll do Newcastle, no problem. With no Gordon, with no Lewis Hall, no Botman. Yeah, we'll beat them, no problem. I'm really not so sure now. I'm really not so sure. And it's not just one game. I think the Southampton game, obviously the first half, we were dreadful. There's been a couple of performances from Liverpool recently that's just not quite sat right with me, and I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with quality. I think that's why I've led so heavily on the tiredness factor. And it's also just a little bit frustrating as well, because I think there was no need for Slot to go so strong against Southampton. Because let's be honest, as a Liverpool fan, I know this is not necessarily anything to do with the League Cup final, but as a Liverpool fan, if Liverpool lost against Southampton, we'd have been, 12 points clear? Title's still pretty much done. But you could have rested, you could have rotated in that team much, much better. There was no need at all for Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch, all those players to keep, like Van Dijk, Canate. They didn't need to be in that side. We could have had Kwanzaa, we could have had Endo, we could have had Elliott and Jones. They could have started against Southampton, and I'm sure they would have still won. But, maybe we did lose that one. But I would have been able to accept being 12 points ahead of Arsenal still and losing at home to Southampton going into the PSG game. At least then the players would have been fresh against PSG. Maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe we'd have been through in the Champions League. Maybe we'd have been coming into this game with a bit more momentum, a bit more belief, and maybe feeling a lot more positive after going through. Who knows? It might have made no difference whatsoever. 2020 hindsight is a beautiful thing, isn't it? But the reality is, we are where we are, and I think I'm going to back Liverpool to lift the trophy, but probably after penalties. Probably after penalties, similar to what's happened in recent years when we've been to the final against Chelsea, and, a couple of finals against Chelsea where it's gone to penalties, and I can see it being something similar. A tight game, probably low on quality, maybe low on goals as well. I can imagine it being maybe 1-1. Very tight. Newcastle didn't look like they had an awful lot of quality in the final third against West Ham. They defended all right, I guess. West Ham weren't terrific either going forward, but Newcastle can defend. Shah's a good player. Dan Burn will put his body on the line. Trippier's an experienced player. Pope, they've got some experienced pros in the team. That midfield is quality. The ability of Salah and Diaz or Gakpo, whoever it is, up against Trippier and Livramento, I think we can hurt him. And obviously Isak against Kwanzaa, Endo, and a half-fit Canate, another. Oh, it's gonna be. I'm getting anxious and nervous already. If we win a domestic double in Slot's first season, this probably ranks as Liverpool's greatest season of my lifetime, maybe in the last 30 years. And I think that would really cement this Liverpool side as one of the best that I've ever seen. But yeah, we'll be live, win, lose or draw, on Sunday at 4pm, 4:30pm kickoff UK time. So wherever you are in the world, whatever club you support, if you're a Liverpool fan, if you're a Newcastle fan, if you're a fan of any football club, doesn't matter if you're a rival, you just want to come in and banter us, that's fine too. Get in, 4 o'clock, the watch along will start. I'll be here, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. But either way, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please consider giving us a like and a subscribe and a follow, whatever platform you're watching this on. Videos are posted every single day on the Premier League, not just Liverpool, although I am a Liverpool fan. I post on all Premier League news stories, all, updates on every club. So if you like that sort of stuff, if football's your thing, if you're a football dad like me, come and give us a follow, give us a subscribe. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, X, all that stuff, YouTube. All the links are in the bio in the description. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.